You Are It, a new take on sponsorship. I tried to sneak into my first AA meeting in Lawrenceville, Georgia, hoping no one would notice me. I only went to that meeting because the one person I believed would help me get my wife and kids back had sent me. The problem was that I was at the end of a spree and I tried to tiptoe in. I had a bad case of the shakes from not having a drink that day, and my attempt to sneak in just made me more visible than if I had just strolled in and acted as if I didn't care who saw me. An old man grabbed my hand and said, "Hi, welcome. You are new and I'm so glad you're here. We need you to help us stay sober." To this day, I remember his smile and a warm, dry handshake. He took me to a seat, brought me half a cup of coffee, and sat right next to me for the rest of the meeting. Everyone talked about what they had felt like at their first meeting. I just knew they had been talking to the priest who had sent me. After the meeting, that old man kept me there talking. Somehow he convinced me to go to another meeting the next night. The following night, I tried to quietly sneak into the AA meeting in Asheboro, North Carolina. Again, I failed miserably. This old fart came up to me and shook my hand as he smiled and said, "Welcome. I'm Bill. Glad you are here. I see that you are new here. Let me get you a seat." Bill did the exact same thing as the man I'd met the night before. He took me to a seat, got me half a cup of coffee, and sat next to me. I have no idea what the meeting was about. I was beginning to shake badly and I was hurting from not drinking. But I can still remember what happened after that second meeting ended. Bill kept close by my side until some of the crowd thinned out. Then he turned to me and started telling me a bunch of lies. He said he had been sober 5 years. I knew that was not possible. He said he was only in town for a short time to be with his brother-in-law as he died from cancer. I did not smell booze, so I knew that was a lie. He told of how he and his brother-in-law had lived in the alleys of Maryland and that they had gotten sober together. If it were my drinking buddy that was sick, I would be feeding him shots and having a few with him. Bill then asked me a simple question. "Do you want to be able to go a day without needing or wanting a drink?" He had me. He said what was somewhat commonplace back then. He told me, "I need to stay sober, and you are it. Here's my address and phone number. Now give me yours." I just knew I had run into the AA police, and I had no idea what AA was, other than this is where a guy goes to get his wife and kids back. Bill shadowed me. If I did not call him when I was supposed to, 1 minute later he called me. If I did not meet him at the restaurant before work, he was leaning on my truck at lunch. If I did not call him 20 minutes before I got off work, he was at my truck when I did get off. If I was not at the meeting place at least 45 minutes before the meeting, he was at my doorstep. He fed me orange juice and honey, and when I got sick from the shakes, he cleaned it up and got me more. He was either taking me to a meeting, meeting me before a meeting, or meeting me before work, and he made sure I went to work too. All he ever talked about was not drinking, no matter what. Even if I had to have a drink, he said, "Don't drink, call me." I went along with him mostly to catch him in one of his lies, partly because going to that empty house made me nuts and I was only in AA to get my wife back anyway. He talked about motives not making any difference. I was glad to hear that because I knew that I could do what a drinking buddy had done. Go to AA for a couple of months, get my wife to come back, chill at the house for a month, and then hit the bars. That is what AA was to me, a way to get my wife back. I had no idea what was in store. I can still remember the day my hallucinations stopped. I called Bill one day, complaining that my TV was not working. "It had been working fine yesterday," I said. He came over to see about it and found out that it was unplugged from the wall. The moment he held out the plug, I remembered that the month before, we'd had a lightning storm. Since I had lost another TV to a storm a few months before, I had unplugged it, gone to the bootlegger, and gotten drunk. I came to from that drunk, and here I was. I told this to Bill, and he got this huge smile. He told me, "Don't sweat it. You are right where you should be, and the hard part is over. Let's buy you some food now. Get in the car. You will wash the ashtrays at the meeting tonight. I just knew that he was out to drive me over the edge, and I still could not catch him smelling like booze. Bill's brother-in-law passed away a few weeks after that. Bill took me to a speaker meeting that night. He showed me who he wanted to sponsor me, and then told me that he was going back home in a few days. He gave me a suggestion. Go introduce yourself. Tell him that all you know is how to go a day without a drink. Ask him to sponsor you and get his phone number. I did what I was told because I believed that the only way to get him out of my life was to do what he said. You see, I had no idea what he had done for me. I was without a clue as to who he really was. All I knew at that time was he was a bald-headed, cigar-chewing, crusty old fart who was driving me nuts. His constant repetition of, "Don't drink even when your butt falls off. You don't need no damn wife and kids to get sober. If you drink, it is because you are unwilling and you have a closed mind. Sit down and shut up. We already know how to drink and we want to discuss how to stay sober. Do not do that chanting crap after the Lord's Prayer. Amen means the end. If you start putting cutesy chants right after a prayer, all you're doing is putting your focus back on you and not God. How are you going to help yourself by doing that?" I still do not chant after the Lord's Prayer. As I put these words on paper, I hear him, just as if he were right next to me now. And I can almost smell his stinking cigar. I see his sincerity, his passion for not drinking, and his complete surrender to our program of action. Today, I know what Bill did. He lived the program, and today I know who Bill really was. I went to that new sponsor and did what Bill told me to do over breakfast, not just orange juice and honey by then. He said, "Do everything he tells you to do no matter what, so long as he can show you where in the big book it says that." That sponsor took me through our book, sentence by sentence, starting on the blank page through Dr. Bob's nightmare. I always realized what he was teaching me right after it was finished. He took me on 12-step calls. I drove him to almost every meeting we went to for over a year. By his example, he taught me how to apply this program to my life and thinking. He taught me how to apply the steps as I went along with the business of living, and he is my friend today. He taught me how to teach others through action, how to apply our program of recovery. He gave me my tokens along the way. Bill showed up for my first birthday, wearing his huge smile and carrying some food. Even today, I can see Bill's face light up at our breakfast when I told him that my new sponsor made me drive 45 miles and sit at his kitchen table every week. All he said was, "Now that's the ticket." I had no clue. I have made many mistakes along the way of getting dry, sober, and even sane, but I have not had a drink, no matter what. I have a program of action to clean up my messes and allow God to change me through my mistakes. Over the past 22 years, I have had to move all over the Southeast for work. I changed to a new sponsor when it was necessary. At about 4 years sober, I moved to a real small town that had no AA. Bill's fierce determination to stay sober came to mind, and, encouraged by Bill W.'s example, I enlisted a clergy person to help me grab hold of my desire to stay sober with a willing, wet drunk. We started a little group. When I look back, I remember the little angels who grabbed my hand and prodded me along the way. During the last 4 years, most of my angels have been given wings. Each one has left his body. Each had the voice and skin of Alcoholics Anonymous. Today, the effect each has had on my life is vividly clear. I was a person who came to a meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous without hope or intention of staying there. However, there was a crusty old fart who needed to stay sober, and the new person who showed up was it. Today I know who Bill really was, God with skin. Stan H., Alvaton, Kentucky.